What is the best investment during inflation? Times are tight, but we're looking for those avenues in times of inflation where we could put our money and get that steady stream of income, that passive income. And today, I'm going to share a few tips with you, a few avenues you can take as far as the best investments to make during inflation. There's multiple great investment opportunities you can take during inflation to ensure that you have that financial stability and growth. And I'm going to share a few of those here with you today. First and foremost, we all know real estate is booming lately. And the thing with real estate and why that is one of these investment opportunities you could take during inflation, what makes it so good is that since the year 1991, there's been an average 4% growth each year, which is more than enough to compensate and contend with the rising inflation or even interest rates when those seem to hike up. Sure, you can risk things like the great housing crash in 2007, 2008. However, those are far few in between. You're talking about something that occurred about 15 years ago. Not only that, but just like with anything, there are some forms of risk involved, and it's up to you to kind of weigh that risk reward factor. However, there are other things like real estate investment trusts or crowdfunding where you can go through publicly owned companies to get a share of already owned real estate or contribute to this pool of other investors in crowdfunded real estate to kind of down on the piece of pie you would have, but it also mitigates a lot of that risk. If something were to go south, you wouldn't lose as much money and you'd still be able to invest in real estate, just a smaller amount. So next up, I want to talk about US Treasury, I bonds, or savings bonds. These are another great investment opportunity that you can make during inflation. So these savings bonds tend to have a fixed rate, or they have a rate that's adjusted in accordance with inflation semi-annually every 6 months. Generally, if you invest in these types of savings bonds, you have to hold them for a few years to negate any possible penalties incurred dealing with interest. However, you could hold it for a shorter period of time, 1 or 5 years, and then cash out. But you also have that opportunity for a more long-term investment within. You could hold it up to sometimes up to 30 years. Next up, something I've talked about a lot before, and this is dealing with stocks as one of those good things to invest in during inflation, but more specifically, highly diversified stocks. Now, it's always a good idea to diversify your portfolio regardless if you're in a period of inflation or not, but if you are in a period of inflation, it is imperative that you diversify your portfolio. Now, you could do this in the form of index funds or ETFs that can kind of cast this blanket spreading your money about an entire sector in a lot of cases, or just over a bunch of different stocks that are tracked by an index, and an index fund like the NASDAQ or S&P 500, Dow Jones Industrial, stuff like that. Investing in these index funds, these mutual funds, these ETFs, it's usually a slower but safer method. So highly diversified stocks is a great avenue to take. So another good thing to invest in during periods of inflation is, of course, silver and gold. Historically, it's been proven that investing in silver and gold is best in times of inflation as the US dollar loses its value. Things dealing with these raw materials or commodities such as silver and gold go up in value. Silver historically performs better than gold does. However, gold is usually around 70% more expensive than silver. So if you're experienced in dealing with silver and gold, you could physically buy it. However, there's also many ETFs out there which track silver and gold performance, and you can invest in those. And next up, I want to talk about relevance-based commodities. This is another good thing to invest in during periods of inflation. So this is based on two things: supply and demand and timing. Commodities is about investing into specific raw materials during specific global events going on. For instance, in periods of inflation, gold and silver is naturally going to rise with the decrease in value with the US dollar. And speaking to other global events like the Russian invasion, you see the oil prices skyrocket. All in all, relevance-based commodities, and you want to track these raw materials in accordance with how they are in lockstep with these global events that are occurring around you. Last but not least, I want to talk about crypto briefly. I'm not going to go too in depth because I cover crypto in pretty good detail in other videos. It's essentially just a decentralized financial market. It's not controlled by a government. It's not controlled by any one financial institution. It's an entity that is separate, and it logs these transactions on a digital ledger they call the blockchain. So it's still relatively new, so there's not really any long-term performance metrics based off how it does in accordance with inflation long-term. However, the high risk, high reward feature is something that a lot of people like to dabble in. So again, these are the different things I think is best to invest in during inflation. Be sure to check out my other videos if you haven't already. Like and subscribe for more.